Hello guys, Jesse Kotton here, and we just got top 8 at YCS Vancouver. For those that don't know Canada, obviously where I'm from, so I want to defend the homeland. So I always
defend the homeland.
Want to do well at these events, and I've tried for a long time, and I've topped every single Canadian YCS since 2015. But there's another streak, and that is, for one, I was the last YCS Vancouver champion, and that also I've won the first NAYCS the last 2 years. So keeping that streak alive would have been great. And while I was close, wasn't able to close out. That being said, this is also the highest placing Dracotail deck, I believe. I was very happy how the deck played. It's a lot of fun, and you're looking for something more old school Yu-Gi-Oh, but still very, very powerful. This is it. Really cool deck.
Yeah, we agree on that one. Dracotail is by far the coolest out of the new decks. Like K9 and Yummy are fine, but this is where it's at.
Prizes, which great. So I'm gonna be a little more in depth with the cards here. So Lucas, okay. So I guess the thing with the Dracotails.
Oh, you can see down here the YCS playmat is now stitched. That's cool. They used to do this only for like the Continental Championship, like the Euros or NAWCQ playmats for Top Cut. They were stitched, but yeah, that's a decent quality improvement.
A fusion based deck. All of your monsters will have an effect when they're fused away to set from deck a Dracotail spell trap. Some will have a little bonus effects up top. The dragons will, the spellcasters won't. So it's half and half. Yeah, so Lucas has that effect like the rest of them do. Lucas is one of the spellcasters, so it doesn't have.
I never noticed like that's how you remember it. Like the spellcasters have no bonus when fused, but the dragons do. I never looked at it that way. I was just like, okay, some have bonuses, some don't. You just have to remember, okay, all the spellcasters have no bonus. All right.
Bonus effect. On its summon, it stratos for a Dracotail monster. This deck has a little bit of a problem with not enough monsters in the deck, so anything that gets you somewhat started, you play 3 of. 3/5 mana, which is the most broken one. Also spellcaster, so no bonus effect when it fuses, but still searches a Dracotail. This one is quick effect from the main phase, discard it to fusion summon a spellcaster or dragon. So you can actually do stuff like Winda, and like some other cool cards I play. I don't play Winda, but we'll get to that soon. Malulu. So this one is a dragon. Its extra effect when fused away is after you search, you can negate the effect of one face-up monster your opponent controls.
Non-target.
Why would you get a face down? Anyways, yeah. So it negates. Important to note the bonus effects of all 3 of the dragons do not target, which helps you a lot when you're breaking fields and through stuff. And it makes it so that yes, Vanquish Soul can be a little hard. It's still not the end of the world. They can bounce back stuff. Its other effect is that during the main phase, quick effect, you can fusion summon a Dracotail monster and then locks you into fusions. So it's like Cartesio, however, it will lock you into fusions, which does matter, and it's only Dracotail cards, which, while not the biggest deal, can be important. Still, it's very good. It doesn't have to use itself as material, but it can, and you will decide what you do. Obviously, it may seem good to use peak material for that extra search. When you have enough searches, you'll instead want to keep enough field, that way you can use it as disruption in the opponent's turn. Next is 3 Dracotail Pan. I'm not sure if I should have played 3 of this card, but I was decently happy with it. And the OCG, it is normal to play 1 of this card. Yeah. What it does, and it's high level, so obviously it looks bricky, is that its bonus effect when it's fused with is after you search, you destroy a monster your opponent controls. Obviously you can see that's very good. It's a lot of free value and great for breaking fields and preventing fields. And then when in the graveyard and one of your Dracotail, or sorry, any of your fusions is destroyed, you put at the bottom of the deck to revive a non-fusion Dracotail from your grave. So ideally, you're going to be reviving your fusion summon, the Malulu, or Lucius. So the reason people don't always play 3 of this card is it's obviously a brick.
It is a brick. However, I do vibe with the decision to play more Dracotail names. That is something that I was planning to do when I'm going to build this deck eventually, because I want to try it out as well. I was thinking about playing more copies of Urgula, because Urgula seems like the one that gives you more card advantage early on. But like, I think one of Dracotail has 2 things it needs to worry about. It needs to find a way to fusion summon, and it needs to find enough good cards that are good to fuse with. If you do those 2 things, you're going to be fine, in my opinion. But Dracotail Pan, I could see this card being more than a 1-of for sure, because it is one of the best things to fuse with if your opponent has a board, for sure.
You need to be able to fuse it away for it to do anything. That being said, you have enough fusion cards, I think you should play it, as well as it makes the really powerful turn 1 play on your opponent's turn to find me in a fuse away this, like, crazy strong. So yeah, a lot of us Yugiohs play 1, but I went with 3 because I wanted to draw it, as well as you always want to end the
Yeah,
hand.
no, that's I think that's a good point. Like, it makes the 5 mana like busted if you draw it with Pan.
Not having to search it is nice, or if you
I
get
like
Ash, you're not able to search it, then higher chances of having one. One Urgula. So this is the other one that people are playing 1 of, but in TCG more people are playing more of this card. I think that's honestly fine. I haven't decided which one I prefer more. This is better to play if you're getting like Hollysuit on turn 0, like on your first turn. And it's better in some long games or versus DD Crow. This is better when you're going second. Urgula is a bonus effect is to pop spell a trap, which is good. The reason why it's in theory is better than Pan is its other effect in the grave is better, and that is you can put in the bottom of the deck to add back a spellcaster, Dracotail, from your grave. So typically adding back 5 mana. So it's going to add back, you fuse it away, add it back, and then you get your quick fuse on the opponent's turn. So what's important with that is there's no real activation conditions. You can just fuse it away and then put it to the bottom. So sending this to grave is like a +3. Pop back row, set a card, and add this back, which is just nuts, obviously. Also, what's important here is when your opponent is summoning monsters in your first turn, this card can fusion summon if your opponent controls a monster. It's like shit all fusion. So by saving this for later on in the turn, if you search it...
In general, if you can keep key to Dracotail, like if you can play without this card, I think that's very good, because then you can insulate yourself from like your opponent doing anything, right? Because they don't want to play into this like by summoning a monster. So ideally you play without having to activate K2 Dracotail.
Later on, then you can pop the card to summon. But if you set off this at the start of the turn and don't pop anything, draw once per turn, so you can't search again, then pop, it's gone. So the Dracotail monsters, this is not that I'm not playing, this deck doesn't have that many tools at its disposal, unfortunately. And the deck will reflect that. Spells.
This, by the way, is also one of the reasons why I think the new Dracotail support card is low-key just really good. The one that's about to come out in the OCG, or just came out. Like, it's not a super flashy card, but just having more names in this deck, I think is awesome. Like, another trap in rotation and another main deck name is good.
There are 3 Key2. So Key2 adds a Dracotail from your hand, and then if your opponent controls a monster, you can fusion summon a spellcaster or a dragon and monsters from your hand or field. This does not lock you into anything. Neither does 5 mana, by the way, so these are when you go for link plays. Not always, but yeah. 3 Rahu, which is like branded fusion. You fusion summon a Dracotail using branded, or using a guy from your deck, Dracotail. So you can see why these is powerful. Now you could argue that because these are effects that search these, you don't need 3 of each of them. And I do side out of them sometimes because drawing spells in this deck can be bad, and we'll see why with the fusion monsters. But importantly, this deck doesn't have enough starters for you to just not play 3 of each of these. And into some fields, it can be really good going second. That being said, drawing these going first can be a little awkward because it means when you get searches off these, they do less. And then I got Dracotail, Horn, and Flame. So these cards are actually just kind of crazy, and any deck in theory could run them. Flame targets a spell on the field, negates its effect, and then you can, so you don't have to do this, which is why it's generic, place a Dracotail from your graveyard or ban.
That's a good point, actually. You could play Dracotail Flame in any deck for going first, just because it is straight up a spell negation, right? Like, you can just negate any spell with this.
Banish zone, bottom of your deck, and draw a card. So it's a negate and then a draw and recycle. And these recycle each other because this also has the same effect. Instead of negating a trap card, though, it bounces specifically an attack mode monster. So when you're playing against this deck, be careful. That being said, it can bounce your own cards as well, which comes up a lot because people will play around it. So just be very conscious of the fact that you'll oftentimes be bouncing your own card with this. And then again, you place one at the bottom of the deck to draw 1, so these will cycle each other in theory. And this is why people like to Ash Rebel, because if one's in the grave and you Ash the second one, then in theory they're cut off infinite loop, which isn't the main game plan of this deck, but it can be.
Which is another reason why the third one in rotation after the next set is crazy, right? Like, having a third one is good for exactly that reasoning. Like, one trap goes into the grave, you Ash the second one, you can't get back the traps anymore. With the third one, you don't have that problem.
Now, there's one different thing about my deck, and that is Cartesia. I don't know if I call this that different, but I've been 2 Cartesias. So the reason is, one spellcaster synergizes with the Dracotails, some being spellcasters. It gives you more ways to fuse, because too many times I would find myself not having a way to fuse, or only one, and we get ashed, and you just lose. So I need specifically 2 more cards to fuse, and that's what these are. And unlike something like King of the Swamp, you can be more flexible with how this is used. And if you don't fuse with this, which oftentimes you don't, you can then link it away or leave it on fields to then fuse again on the opponent's turn.
That's the thing with Cartesia is like, I think the biggest deal about Cartesia is that it's 2 fusion summons in 1 card, because you do it once on your turn, and then whether it gets impermed or not it doesn't matter, but you can leave the Cartesia around and it gives you another fusion summon on the opponent's turn, which I think is just really good in Dracotail, right? Like you just get to do 2 fusion summons. I think that was good.
As well as in the end phase, when it fusions in the grave, it adds itself back to hand, which can be more fusion fodder for later plays. So this card is very good. Why not 3? Because I needed enough hand traps in the deck to be good. And yeah, I do play 3rd in the side deck though. The rest of this deck is all hand traps. There's a fusion monster that returns cards from the graveyard to your hand. So hand traps in this deck are very potent because you can cycle them back, as well as your fusions can use any monsters. So hand traps just work great. This deck fell off in OCG because of the K9 cards being popular in Azuna, and it felt like, in general, you can't beat the VS deck, especially because the Ripper and Azuna are very powerful. There's 2 schools of thought, though, to handling that. You could either cut down on hand traps and graveyard effects and play like Yummy does, and some game states with breakers and stuff, have a better engine yourself. Or you play so many hand traps, them negating with Ripper or having Azuna, you just overwhelm them. So it's the same way you played against Snake Eye, where to beat Appaloosa, you just literally push through the Appaloosa. And that's how I built this deck.
Well, most of the time you didn't beat it, but yeah.
Which I think is not too common, and I'm not sure why. This deck cannot be built with breakers because honestly the entire deck is graveyard effects and hand effects. So trying to avoid playing graveyard hand effects in this deck is just impossible. And ideally versus Ripper, you want to resolve 1 of 2 cards. It's the Famina.
I think there is a 3rd way. Of course, you're never going to play around Izuna with this deck. I don't think that's the main argument. I think the main argument is that hand traps don't do that much in the current format against Yami and Vanquish Soul Canine. They can, absolutely. It's just statistically, like, drawing 1 or 2 or 3 hand traps is not going to end their turns as often. Sometimes it will, so this is still very valid. But like, the other alternative is not just playing like board breaker spells. The alternative is just play like very high quality engine monsters to push through what they do. Like I'm talking like Fenrir, maybe Bestials, which kind of like double as hand traps, Phantasme, this type of stuff, and then play like some select hand traps that you think are still really good, like maybe Ash, Nibiru, Veiler or something. That's basically the way that I would also like to try this deck. But the all hand trap approach is fine. It's gonna work. I think this is like one of the better approaches when you're going first, because you're gonna have a board that is backed up by a lot of stuff. Like, and specifically something like Effect Veiler or DD Crow is pretty nice in this approach because they're not once per turn. So if you go first, you make a board, you have like a Veiler in hand, you can basically, that's 2 Veilers, right? Because when you set up, you're gonna be like cast turn, use Effect Veiler, and then fuse into Arthalion, add Veiler back to hand, use it again, right? So they basically they duplicate in this deck.
The fuse or the Nibiru. Nibiru was probably one of the best cards in my deck. This card is just crazy. You want to put the token in attack if you can, without, as long as it doesn't kill you. That way you can bounce it back with a trap. There are a lot of matchups you will Nibiru during your own turn, so you can bounce it back. You can nib and bounce it back and over again, or you kill them like nib.
Nib
summon
is crazy.
fusions, trap, bounce their token, attack for game. Happens a lot as well. This card is the best card like in the deck, it feels like. Next up, 6 Charmies. Help you go second and draw cards. And as I said, this deck does fuse going with dead monsters in hand, so drawing these dead is not a big deal. And in fact, sometimes you won't shotgun things, because if it never ends up being good, you'll just fuse with it. 3 Ash is obviously the worst hand trap, but there aren't enough hands where this card can solo, and then looping Ash in simple game states is broken. But I never got to do that. 3 Veilers and then 2 Ogres. The reason behind these are the same. What I found is when they summon Ripper, you need a card that beats Ripper, because you need to force the negate on it, and then that way your Famina or Nib can resolve. And there's a couple cards that in theory can do this. So Gorse Mourner can do this. Ghost Reaper can hit Ripper. You could play...
It's crazy how bad Ash is right now if it doesn't negate Charmies. I think it's fine against Yami to hit stuff like Engage or Obedience Schooled. I think it's good against Vanquish Soul to cut them off of Vanquish Soul specifically. It sucks against the Canine part. But if you can hit Stake Your Soul, that's pretty good in my opinion.
The Canine package. I went for these because they were flexible. Valor's the best to loop with, to add back to my hand, because it needs more than one in one turn. As well as it's just super flexible, and it's a spellcaster, and it can still hit the Ripper. Not counting for Made with Lupus, but still. Ogre is because, even though Ogring Ripper's effect doesn't feel that good, it gets the negate off the field. Ironically, these combo well together, even if they have Lupus under it. Ogre Valor eats both materials, then you can Valor them, and they're just pretty much like you're Gamma-ing it, or Orange Lighting it. And it should still force the Ripper, because even if they just don't use the effects, then it's gone, and that's a good thing. That being said, this card is still worse. I just needed 2 hand traps, that's why I put it in there. Now, there's a couple things to note. For one, the other reason why this card is better than something like Ghost Mourner is this deck has a hard time against the Canine cards sometimes. So specifically what you want to look out for, or if you're playing against the deck as well, if you can summon a Canine Ripper that is untargetable on the Dracotail player's first turn with Azuna, it's really annoying, because that immediately beats the Femina, and that slows down my capacity a lot, as well as it gives you follow-up, and it's a hard time. So, or even ranking up at the Typhon's not bad either, because my Fusion's 3000, my main one. So ogring not the Azuna, the Lupus is very powerful, which is the other reason why 2 is there. Now, the reason why there's no
ogring the Lupus is also really good in the long run, because it will be banished, right? Yeah.
Cards in this deck is, yes, they are hand traps that would fit this deck's game plan, but it's not extra deck space. Extra deck space is not tight. It's actually because when you're building a deck, you want to think with purpose in mind. The purpose of each card in this deck is deliberate. The reason for these hand traps, remember I said, is I need them to beat Ripper. And while in theory Azuna does bait Ripper because you can make Nash Knight to steal it, it's also more fragile. Because if they have like a Dr. Mavlo on field, or a Caesar on field, or any removal, their own Ghost Ogre, then your Azuna no longer checks the Ripper, because the other card will beat the Ripper. And any astute player will know, like with Appaloosa, it's probably bait. They want to not negate the hand traps if they can, especially the low impact. In that case, Ripper accomplishes what he needs to less often. It's also worse than a Yummy, for what it's worth. It is definitely way better in the mirror match, though. So I decided that, for that reason, there's no Canine cards. If I expected a lot more mirror matches, I'd probably side deck the Canine cards. And they're not terrible versus VS, but they didn't really do exactly what I wanted either, so that's why we ended up here. So Arthalion or Arthalion, honestly, I can't decide how to pronounce it. Arthalion. This is the best card in the deck, probably. It's
Dude, I've never heard anyone call it Arthalion.
It's nuts. So it's 1 Dracotail monster, and then as many monsters from your hand as you want, so you need minimum 1, obviously. At which point, on summon, target monsters in either player's field or graveyard, up to number of materials used from the hand specifically, and then return them to the hand. So this is how you're going to loop back
Arthur Lion.
Your own hand traps and fusion materials, as well as it's going to be used as disruption, bounce your opponent's monsters in field. Or grave, for whatever reason, sometimes can come up, although they never did for me. And then also, both Dracotail fusion monsters have an effect that when 2 or more monsters are sent to the field to the grave at the same time, from either player, you can revive the Dracotail, and they get banished afterwards. So while it's not huge, it gives you bodies to fuse with, as well as damage to kill them with, because that matters a lot. This deck can actually kill really easily, where most slower control decks cannot. 2 Golem sometimes one gets banished. So this one is Dracotail plus any monster in the hand, but it's just 1. This one is also lower level. You cannot Cartesia for this one. This is Dragon Spellcaster that matters as well.
Oh, Cartesia does say level 8, right? Yeah.
So this one is definitely worse, but still important. When a Dracotail card effect is activated, you can target a card in the field and destroy it. Important to note, it says when. What that means is it has to chain itself directly in response to a Dracotail card. So if you are playing against this and the opponent has the Dracotail effect activated, if you can chain any card in response to the Dracotail, this cannot work. So you need to make sure when you summon this, you have enough ways to force through a Dracotail effect. That way you can get the pop through. Sometimes not doable, but yeah, this card is flawed, though it is good still. Mysterion is in theory really important, and it existing is important for decks to play around, but it's not as good as it may seem. This requires a Dragon and Spellcaster. It's one of the 2 fusions that's going to matter for typing. This and Secretarion, the other one here, both have this weird effect that monsters lose 100 attack, or they lose 100 attack itself, every one of your banished cards. This matters because the Typhon, these are both 3k, so you can actually drop them below 3k. Some game states. Anyways, why this card is important is if a monster is special summoned by its own effect, or summons another monster of the same type with a monster effect, you can target it, banish that monster, and then all monsters on the field of the same type. So versus a deck like Yummy or Malice, this could be an entire board wipe. Even if not, versus like an Azuna, it hits one monster. And for that, it is decent. Dracotail in reality is the better card, but this card is important in some matchups. It's the same attack debuff effect, same materials. This is a floodgate effect that while it's in the field, your opponent cannot use the effects or activate the effects of any special summoned dragon or spellcaster monsters. It is important, but that floodgate effect doesn't screw over the mirror match entirely. Because the graveyard effects like Malulu to negate and Pan to destroy still stop it. Its other effect, though, is actually more important, in my opinion, and that is once per turn, you can target a dragon and a spellcaster in your grave, put one at the bottom of the deck, and summon the other. So this can be used in a grind game, it can be used for lethal shots, it can be used to revive an effect you never got to summon. Like, say you had to normal summon Malulu or Cartesia, and then never got to summon this, but it's in the graveyard because you fused it away. Now you can revive it and you search off it. Very good card. Like I debated playing 2 almost. Billy Regis. This card's cool. So this card requires a level 7 or higher dragon and a dragon fusion. And then main phase only quick effects. Target.
We owe Secretarion a public apology. I mean, it's a good card. It would arguably still be cooler if it wasn't a floodgate. Like they should have. The revive effect is awesome. The recycling and the reviving, like that's neat. But like, why did they put the floodgate part on there? Like, yeah, okay, there's outs to it. If you can perform a fusion summon, you can like fuse a pan and then pop it or something. But like, it's still weird that they made it that way.
Get a monster as a card. One card that your opponent controls or in their grave, and then banish it. However, if you banish a card from the field, then you have to bounce back a dragon from fields, your fields to your hand. So, yeah, but it's good for disrupting graves, which otherwise the deck doesn't have much of, and sometimes for field as well when you have a lot of ways to fusion summon, because you can fuse away this or 2 of these even easy. It has another effect that it can revive itself at the start of your opponent's battle phase. That never come up for me, but yeah. Those are the fusions. Then I'm playing Typhon. Grind game, hand traps, makes sense. And Spirit Dies of Blue. So the reason to play this is Erratic Seal. If you can make Erratic Seal, this card is great because it obviously is a bounce. And a special dragon from deck, you're going to summon Malulu, and then Malulu lets you fuse, right? So it's obviously a lot of disruption.
What do you guys think is Jesse's favorite rarity from the rarity collection? I have a feeling it's the ultimate rares.
That being said, you don't always have enough dragons to make this. What you can do is if you started off with the Lucius, is you can link it off for Blue Eyes, it's a spellcaster, and now it's a dragon. And then you just throw it into this. It's the only reason you play it. I never did a one-soul tournament, but it's important to have as an option. Artemis, this card is the least important card in the deck. I almost wasn't playing. Actually, there's 2 that aren't that important. But this turns a spellcaster into a link, so you can make SP. Celine is also not very good. The idea here is if you have link fodder, this can get more than 6 counters, or 6 or more. You can start reviving on your turn and your opponent's turn, because people forget it's a quick effect. So you can.
What's yours? I've gone back to secrets, just regular secrets, because most, especially for my staples, what I've realized is I like it when all my cards have the same rarity, and most of the time when a new staple comes out, it's going to be a secret rare, like for example Molcharmies. And so I like having all my hand traps, for example, as like secrets. So I picked up, like I play secrets from rarity collection.
Revive Lucius on the opponent's turn.
I did like the collectors. I do like, but I did realize that after a while, like I prefer the regular collectors rare so much over the ones from rarity collection. And then again, like if all my hand traps are collectors, like everything out of the main set is gonna look different. Like whenever I put a new hand trap from a new pack in my deck, it's not gonna come in collector's rare, right? So that's
and
me. I'm the type of person that's bothered by that.
It's actually really important. So yeah, when you summon a fusion monster, or monster summons its own points to, for points to fusion, or revive a monster in your grave, so you can revive one of your effects you haven't got to use this turn. And this is like how you can link into this, but it never comes up. Importantly, what happens sometimes is if you have one of these in your grave that can revive itself, you can link 2 for Cross Sheep, revive one of the fusions, and then this triggers to revive again, and it restarts your cycle even if your field is like Nib plus Fu loss, which I've done, right? So top deck Fu, oh, damn, I lose. Wait, never mind. Normal Fu with link with Nib, make this, revive this. I'm good to go. And SP, obviously. Your fusions have very few lingering effects on field, so you don't need to keep them on field half the time. Okay, side deck. So
Have you met anyone running mixed rarity deck? Of course, this happens. I think there's people out there who do it deliberately to because they know other people look at it as annoying. I think some people do it because of that.
Main deck this card because of the Charmies to be too conflicting. Even though in theory you can fuse away the dead ones, I thought about it, but it's okay. That being said, you need 6 cards to side out against any matchup anytime for the Charmies. This comes in against a lot of decks, and then sometimes going second. This is still fine. The other cards that I put in going first are 2 Fenrirs and the 3rd Cartesia. So the idea is to have 6 going first cards in the deck. This fills the role for most matchups. 3rd Cartesia because it's really good going first. You need some more consistency. I left me 2 spots left. I decided Fenrir because Fenrir is good into Retaliating Sea, which is a problem for this deck, even though I didn't have it happen to me once. As well as Fenrir gets
people are like that's the nice thing about Dracotail at the moment. It is arguably the 3rd best deck out of the new Justice Hunter stuff, so people aren't really expecting it to the point where, you know, like people are not putting Retaliating Sea in their side deck right now, so you don't really have to deal with like targeted hate when you play Dracotail, which is cool.
Copy itself to fuse away. Also importantly versus Yummy, that deck isn't very good against strong attack monsters that don't start a chain, and Fenrir summoning attacking is very good. That can then later hit the field spell, which will hurt their grind game. So Fenrir is super solid. Always going first, put this in, and some matchups going second. You don't put this in going second all the time.
Maybe.
Some people main deck this card, and it's not terrible, but again, the focus of the deck is hand trap based, which is why it's only going first in most matchups. Lancia, you're going to play versus Malice. And this would go in instead of Drolls against Malice going first, obviously. And remember, because you can cycle back your hand traps infinitely, if you see Lancia once, you win the game. Versus Malice, because you just loop it, even if you can't kill them.
This is only funny because it's happening to Malice, by the way. Whenever someone recycles Lancia, it's only funny because it's happening against Malice. But it is very funny.
Then there's 3 Ghost Spells. So I needed something for the mirror match side of the Charmies Ogres for because they're a little weird. You can win a grind game easily by cutting off the traps. They can't cycle infinitely anymore. Because these do put in the bottom of the deck, they are weak to Bell. As well as they are good versus Yummy hitting the synchros. So yeah, that means fine. Lastly, different Phantasmaze. I needed to side out.
Let's go.
Some stuff. I wanted some more hand traps versus Vanquish Soul and Yummy. This is very good with Yummy in general. And the Vanquish Soul, it's not great because they don't always summon rocks, but I put it in because it pairs with all the hand traps, force them to weird game states. They make rocks, and this card is fantastic. It's also a dragon, importantly, so you can fuse some nice stuff with it. And yeah, and ideally what I'm doing versus the Dracotail deck or the Vanquish Soul deck is siding down on some of the spells because you want to search them, not really draw them. And when you're drawing off Charmies and Phantasmaze, you don't want to duplicate. And I side up this. I usually keep this in because if you're able to fuse on their first turn, this is when they get a spell, so when they get a rank up spell, which is important. Where this is too easy to play around because they can put stuff in defense mode. And then you should never need both traps. You could argue to play none, but I do like having the one trap just for a backswing turn. And same versus Yummy, because this card hits the Yummy Surprise or Field Spell. This card Loki ended up being better than this one. That is the idea, though, behind this deck. I was really happy with it, and I know this may seem like a simple solution style deck, but I was happy with it. Now, one last thing to note, you may have noticed that
it is a very solid first like version of Dracotail. I think it is relatively cookie cutter. It's like, okay, I'm gonna play all the Dracotail cards, even increase the number of pan a little bit, which I do like, playing more Dracotail names. I'm gonna play an extra way to fusion summon in Cartesia, and then I'm just gonna be doing the pure hand trap version of the deck, which I think is a good place to start once again with exploring Dracotail. I think there is more to explore with Dracotail, especially depending on how the format is going to develop, like how good hand traps in general are going to be into the format. But it's a solid start for sure.
between my main side, I play 0 spells or traps, unless for the archetype ones, including Prosperity. There's no fusion deployments for Cartesia either, no branded fusions. The reason is rather simple. You need monsters in hand to fuse for these. Oftentimes you have to make the choice to fuse by a hand trap, and that's okay. But if you deny yourself that option, you will brick yourself a lot more often. And the deck can be bricky, but honestly, if you just don't play spells and traps in your deck, the bricking happens a lot less.
I agree with that, which is why I think the two approaches for this are either hand trap heavy or monster heavy, but like not hand traps. I think like Shadal's and stuff like that, Fenrir's in the main deck, that I think that is a viable version of the deck, by replacing some of the hand traps that you just find are not performing well in the format. But I think you're always going to play Nibiru in this deck because it has such awesome synergy with it. Like you can bounce it back to your hand with the Dracotail trap. You can return it back with Arthalion when your opponent plays into it. Like it's awesome. So I think you always play Nibiru in this deck. You always play some hand traps, but I think that you could make an argument that like you can gain more mileage out of a combination of some hand traps and some like other monster engines. But yeah, it's interesting.
So guys, that was the deck. I'm super happy with it, and I really like this deck.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to keep playing it for the foreseeable future. So if you guys have any suggestions as well, feel free to let me know, and we can engage in some civil discourse and discussions on how to build this deck, because I think it is far from solved just yet.
I agree with that. I do agree. Dracotail is, out of the new decks, probably the one with the most innovation still to be done. Personally, I think it's the most interesting one for that reason.
And see you guys at the next YCS. Peace. All right, so real quick intervention before we head to the wrap up. There is one thing I forgot to mention as far as deck choices. So another popular way of playing this deck is with Shaddoll cards. The deck can fuse with just about anything, any monster in hand. So any graveyard effect is in theory valuable, as you can put it in grave very easily. So even something like Keldo and Medora can be useful. Now to some extent these are win more, because the idea is to summon it during your opponent's first turn with 5 mana. You should already be doing really well if you have that set up, and you don't need more on top of that. The other problem is Winda, but Winda's not particularly good into any deck right now, so I didn't feel like it was really that special. Now, Shaddolls are very simple value. Shaddoll Be Strong is very good. Shaddoll Dragon can pop back, which is solid. Hedgehogging another Shaddoll. And then obviously you can add them back off Arthurline, giving you more fusion material. However, these cards are all just worse than resolving a Dracotail effect. So playing more Pans or Urglas, for example, they are just less value. And the thing is, you could...
I think that part depends. I think if you, like, yes, you always need Dracotails to fuse with, so you always have to play enough Dracotails to hit that number, so you're able to fuse with Dracotails. But at a certain point, the Dracotail effects become redundant when you, like, instead of fusing like 3 Dracotails away for an Arthalion, you would rather, I called it Arthalion now as well, you would rather fuse like 1 or 2 Dracotails and a Shaddoll or something. I think there is a point where you would rather throw in like a Keldo or a Shaddoll, so I see the point of that argument. Of course, that's the thing, right? I think he's looking at it from the perspective of cutting down Dracotails for those cards, but I look at it more from like, you're probably cutting other non-engine. You're not going to reduce the number of Dracotails for it necessarily.
Just be playing more of those, but you don't, right? You're going to kind of face a position, right, where what do you do? How do you find space with the Shaddoll cards? Because originally they were in my deck. You have to make space either by removing some sort of Dracotail cards, Cartesias, which are engine because they provide fusion summoning, or taking on hand traps.
I definitely don't think you can take out Cartesias. I mean, you can replace Cartesias with other ways to fusion summon, but you can't just put all good fusion material into the deck and then not play any good ways to fuse with it. Like, you need more ways to fuse in this deck other than just the Dracotail cards, I think.
It's important to deck build with purpose, right? So again, it's understanding this deck's strengths, its weaknesses, and what I'm looking for in my extra card slots to finish the deck. So I'm looking for cards to help with beating Ripper, going second, and the Shaddolls don't help.
Why has like no one? I was just thinking about this recently. Why has no one? I've never seen anyone play the patchwork stuff in here. Of course, like King of the Swamp gives you some neat extra deck options. Maybe patchwork is just too many spells that you have to play, compared to like King of the Swamp, where you just play like 1 poly. Where like with patchwork you have to play like multiple polys probably, but just like in terms of like card advantage, it's really good because you can patchwork for Edgim Chain and Poly, and then the Edgim Chain, like King of the Swamp goes to your graveyard and is gone for now. You can add it back later, but for now it's gone. But like with Patchwork, you get an Edgim Chain that you can fuse with immediately to get value from like an extra bounce with Arthalion. So like, I don't know, I'm not saying it's optimal, I'm just saying I thought it was interesting. I've basically seen no one actually play those. But maybe people have been trying them and just didn't think they're good enough, and maybe some people are trying them, but I just haven't seen the lists.
Help that. That's why I end up focusing more on hand traps instead. Or my other weakness is bricking. So I need cards that get me fusion summoning or not get advantage off fusion summons. So Cartesia. And that's why I had about 4 loose spots in the deck that ended up going to 2 ogres and 2 Cartesias. Because those were the problems I found, and that would make my deck balance out the way I wanted to. You could argue to play shell cards for the side deck to make the deck greedier going first, make the end board more powerful, which sometimes it is lacking. I feel like other cards do that better, like Fenrir and more Cartesias. So that is why there was no...
Hi, Jesse.
Hello, Adam. Yes. Fucker woke me up at 2 in the morning, his bachelor party, just to see if I'd answer, showing off to his friends. Anyways, yes, that's why there's no Shaddoll cards in there. I think it's not the crazy hot take, but I do think it kind of should be cemented that, at least for this time and place, Shaddolls are completely suboptimal and you should not be playing them. But you can play them in this deck because you do have some ways to fusion summon without locking yourself. And you can also just play the Fiends with cards. And the reason to do that is fix 2 problems. I did test this briefly at locals. For one, it gives you more engine cards. That way, if you get go first, you don't just brick and pass. You have things to do. Even just pure Fiendsmith, that backed up with hand traps is fine. And then they also let you make Caesar before getting Retaliating Seed, so it beats that problem.
I think for the version that he chose to run, all of this makes a lot of sense. Like, I think if you are gonna play heavy hand trap Dracotail, it should look like this. Like this is how that version works. I think if you're trying to do something else with Shaddolls and stuff, you should be playing, I think, an entirely different approach. Like you would not be like trying to hand trap your opponent and window them at the same time. Like that doesn't make sense to me.
That's decent, as well as it's just another engine in grind game mirror matches like the mirror, you can more pushes. So I ultimately felt like it was like fine, but it would have required extra deck spaces. It would have required a lot of side deck space as well, or main deck space, that ultimately I didn't feel was worth committing to. And again, going back to the philosophy of how the deck is built. This deck is super cool though. It's very flexible, and you can give a lot of different ways of building it, and I'm excited to see what everyone else has in mind. I guess before I send you guys to the original outro, shout out to Tier 0. I'm going to do a in-depth tournament report.
All right. And that's Dracotail. Dude, the new format is awesome. Like, it's awesome. I really want to play more TCG. But it's like, Master Duel Worlds is in 1.5 weeks. After Master Duel Worlds, I'm gonna be so locked in for TCG. I've already registered for like 3 regionals next month. So it's gonna be a good time. I'm looking forward to it a lot. Oh yeah.